a surprisingly smaller month in comparison to what has come and what is next, but threw a few surprises my way and a few disappointments just to balance things out a bit. April, June, and July are going to be much better in terms of media content and quality than May, as is usually the case, but there were a few things I enjoyed, and I got enough entertainment out of the few I liked to make up for the less than good projects I consumed. Wow. This and Captain America have really shown up and proven to be excellent additions into Marvel films. I was skeptical about Thunderbolts for quite a long time, but this movie proved me wrong. The main thing I loved about this film was its choreography and its VFX. The various fight scenes throughout the first few acts of the movie were impressive, showcasing a strong use of practical effects and choreography, supported by the VFX to be super dynamic, impactful, and entertaining to watch. The VFX on the Void were also impressive and utterly terrifying. Sentry, portrayed beautifully by Lewis Pullman, is such a great addition and a great villain, providing both a terrifying threat but also an emotional center to the film. Seeing the Void provide some great growth for Yelena and Walker, as well as healing for the entire team, was a very strong way of doing it and provided some great emotion to the film. Florence Pugh was amazing in this, showcasing some really good emotion and depth to Yelena. Seeing her character slowly burned out by grief, seeing how she is spiraling and dealing with the weight of everything she has done was a very strong way to raise an already fun character to a new level. David Harbour's comedy and comedic strength came in clutch as well, being both the absolute life of the party, but also a wonderfully sweet emotional center in an already deep film. And hey, the asterisk was exactly what we thought it was, kind of. And oh my god, Doomsday's set up, it's gonna be so good! Thunderbolts took the Guardians of the Galaxy idea and put a new spin on it, giving us this band of ragtag, down-in-the-dumps losers who have suffered so much come together to not only help another struggling nobody, but also heal each other. It's a story filled with therapy, darkness, grief, and sadness that heals you in a unique way, but also sets up a wonderfully exciting future. Sentry is one of the coolest and most devastating Marvel characters we've had in a while. Not only is his comic origin depressing, but they adapted it to be equally as depressing without having too many larger connotations. Lewis Pullman's performance really amplifies the whole thing, showcasing trauma, sadness, depression, and anger all at once, and in such a realistic and heart-wrenching way. Thunderbolts is a charmful return to peak form for Marvel, leaping into the success of Captain America and rising even higher, not only being fun and entertaining whilst also being emotional, but setting us up for an absolute banger of a conclusion to this arc of the MCU. This is easily one of the best Marvel movies of the 2020s era. It's not just a Mission Impossible movie or the last Mission Impossible movie, it's also a love letter to the almost 30 years of this franchise. The references, callbacks, surprise cameos, the opening act all work together to call back to the series past, something that was nice to see. As for the story of this movie, they really took the concept of the franchise and poured it all in, from a melodramatic, world-ending, and honestly terrifying plot, filled with tons of intrigue, chaos, and emotion. The team's chemistry is tested in new and unique ways, including a brutal and emotional but somehow perfect death of one of the main stars. The tension of this movie never really lets up till the final minutes, and fluctuates from slight panic to absolute clench, and those stunts, I have to say, the diving one was the most terrifying, mostly because I am terrified of drowning and the ocean, and they milked it for all its narrative worth. The plane scene, whilst intense, was much more of a wow factor than a tense factor, but as I said, still mighty impressive to watch. The villain has never really been interesting since the last one, especially. He just seems like the villain of Fast X, a random character we are supposed to hate and fear, which made his death that much more funny. Simon Pegg is easily the best member of the team. It was nice to see Pom getting more substantial roles and getting to speak in their native language, and the other team members actually had something to contribute this time. Haley Atwell's character became much more entertaining after the last movie. All of the guest stars shine through in this movie, really highlighting the chaos and the dire nature of this wild situation created for this movie. The Entity is a fascinating, if common, villain. I mean, how many AI take over the world villains have we seen in the last 20 or 30 years? The weird thing about this movie is, whilst it has a lot of genetic traits, runs around similar circles and runs a bit long, it's a really good, fun, and surprisingly nostalgic and emotional movie. I didn't know how much this movie would live up to. The trailer hinted it would be good, but I was not expecting this level of quality, enjoyment, or emotion, especially after the last one was somewhat lacking. The Mission Impossible franchise has been a constant source of entertainment, crazy stunts, crazy stories, and great characters, and classic moments, and now it's over, and it went out with a damn good bang. 29 years of history gone in a bright blast of fun, and I never thought I would actually see the day that the Mission Impossible franchise would come to an end.
There's no place I'd rather be. Down the surfboard out at sea, lingering in the ocean blue. And if I had one wish come true, I'd surf till the sun sets beyond the horizon. Oh, Vicky, my lordy, lordy, love and like Papa and Uncle. Flying by on the Hawaiian roller coaster ride. Ah, Vicky, my lordy, lordy, love and like Papa and Uncle.
Another day, another live-action remake I didn't want. The only reason I liked this was Stitch. Stitch was an almost perfect recreation from the original movie in both mannerism and expression. Like, seriously, this guy is so adorable, it's so annoying. His relationship with Lilo was also really sweet and pretty on point from the original. I didn't mind Lilo despite her being a bit more of a brat in this movie. Nani was there, but I hated that they changed her ending and the whole story because the original was so much better. The alien designs were not too bad. I think they were always going to look weird, but Stitch is easily the best. I mean, come on, how is this dude so adorable? The rest of the side characters were there. They were okay. I liked them better in the original. They removed my boy Captain Gantu, biggest sin of the film, and that is not one of the largest issues I had with this film. It's that they made a few changes to it that affected it in a way that I didn't like. Changing the ending, removing Gantu, removing Pleakley dressed in a literal dress. It didn't have the same charm or emotion as the original, except for Stitch. I can't be mad at that cute little demonic face. I love the original movie. It's funny, it's sweet, it's colourful. It's a love letter to Hawaii and Hawaii culture. Most of the movie is set in a resort, so we get barely any of that. We get one scene of the dancing, and that is it. We do get the song, though. That's something, at least. The charm of the original movie has been lost, as many of the more recent live-action remakes have done, and it's a shame because promotional material made me think this might be the movie that pulls it off, even though I don't want any more of these live-action movies. But it was a shame to see them butcher the original love story that they created. The ohana means family, sentiment means nothing if the family leaves at the end. They got one of the main characters perfect, probably because the original voice actor was involved, but other than that, Though I am peeved this movie has made money, meaning there'll probably be more of these movies. God damn it, Disney! This movie is dumb. It's a rare case of a movie where the spectacle is greater than the story. The gruesome murders and violence was the fun part of the movie, and surprisingly much more simplistic than some others. Simplistic but gruesome. The 80s vibes were not as 80s as I would have liked, and you most certainly cannot win me over with the music. I also do not like mean girls in real life or in movies, so I despised most of the characters in this movie and was so happy to see them get killed, except for maybe the Melissa. She redeemed herself. And it was so hard to stick to the redemption arc. Was it so hard to stick to the redemption arc that they started to give her before they ripped it away to go back to the previous story? I might have given this movie a bit more praise if they'd done that, but also, how the hell do you give two best friends this much lesbian energy and not go for it? At least the guy she was going for turned out to be kind of a douche and died. That may be bad to say, but the tension between the two besties was insane. And also, the BFF, best character. I would love to hang out with her. The twist of the movie is somewhat hard to guess, and I wish they had left it at that, or at least with the mum, because it made a lot more sense and had a lot more depth to it than what they went for. But I really was no longer invested by that point. To be honest, I never really expected anything from this movie. I'd never seen the previous ones, though I didn't really need to, I don't think. This movie was just a dumb spectacle, but not in a good way, and also, there were some decisions made that really ruined what could have been an actually interesting story, or at least one that is slightly more interesting than most stories like this. It's a rare case where I actually liked the gore and violence, and actually wanted more, since it was the only interesting thing to happen in this movie.
Want adventure? Come to me, a professor of archaeology. Buried treasures worth the fee. But choose poorly, and surely you're purely cremation. Want adventure? I'm the one wearing leather with the whip and gun, seeking shelter from the sun. And the Nazis will not cease. Why not cease donations? I can almost reach. Rarely I practice what I preach. That is why I was born to teach. And the language I speak changes each week. Where's the antique? In my hands, always in my hands. Never think I need backup plans. My escape is a holy man.
This movie is boring. That could honestly be the entire review, but I'll give you a little more. No one in this movie has any chemistry with each other. Even the siblings argue way too much to the point where it's annoying. Also, neither of them are particularly nice people. The nicest guy is Domhnall Gleeson, and he is the bad guy. The cinematography, the VFX, the acting are all pretty subpar for an Apple TV film, and honestly, nothing special. The plot is pretty generic, classic Indiana Jones secret long lost artifact hidden through a series of puzzles. It feels like it takes way too long to get to the MacGuffin, and it felt really dragged out, and then they get there and there's this whole thing just feels underwhelming. I went into this film with little to no expectations, and was glad to see that this film at least met those standards. I have nothing against John. I think he's a nice guy and does have the talent if the Quiet Place movies are anything to go off. But I do not think this was the movie. I am starting to get tired of these Indiana Jones ripoffs. Red Notice was a pretty big red flag that these movies were on the way, though that one may have been for different reasons. This is the kind of movie that you really should just put in the background so as not to waste 2 hours of your life on nothing, because it is boring, uninteresting, and unoriginal. Seriously, you can package it up all you want. Most things in this movie have been done a dozen times over, and in arguably better attempts. I had no hopes for this movie. This movie did not do well, so I think we can safely move on and not give it any more attention I have conflicting feelings on this show. On the one hand, it's a perfectly tame, decently funny comedy filled with friendships and love. The cast of actors have nice chemistry and a good skill for comedy acting, and the story is paced pretty well given it jumps between different time periods. Coleman Domingo is easily the best of the group on this show, and it is interesting to see Erica Henderson not playing the Princess of Hell. There's a lot I liked about this show, however, it's one of those shows written by people in like my parents' age, and so it has a lot of complaining about modern times and the new generation, particularly in how they respond to the actions of the main cast. In saying that, Steve Carell's character is a jerk. I never liked him. He was selfish, self-centered, and a little bit of an asshole. The way he treats Lila's outburst at what he did is such an asshole move. I do appreciate, however, that the new girlfriend is actually a nice person and is really trying to fit in. Tina Fey's character is also kind of self-centered. I never really found any traction with her. The best characters are Jack Coleman and his husband, and Anne, because they are actually entertaining to watch. 4 seasons had a lot of potential. I was looking for another comedic, brighter show to break up the tons of drama I have to go through in a year, and also had some qualities I could enjoy and was decently funny. It was nowhere near the level I wanted it to be. It's also written in a way I do not click with, which makes it harder to enjoy the show, and with those elements are so prevalent and irritating to me. My first disappointing show of the year, though it's a credit to everything else that it's taken this long to get an actually mid show. This is easily the best of the Tales series. The two storylines we had were so fun to explore, as well as being significantly darker than some we've had seen before. Seeing the Clone Wars style of animation improving so much is nice to see. Ventress' story was fascinating to watch, especially since her end in Clone Wars, and as well as that, seeing how her character has evolved showcases some great character development. As well as that, we got some more lore behind the path, which since Kenobi has been a fascinating new bit of lore to learn about. Her new companion as well was a little fun addition. I wonder if we will get more of Ventress in a future series or in the new Maul show, because not only do I want more, but she could appear in other tales. Cad Bane's story was a Shakespearean-style origin for one of the coolest characters in Star Wars. Seeing the Western-style standoffs, the Mafia plotlines, and some deeper stakes really created a fitting origin for the bounty hunter, and he was the true MVP of this show. I will be interested to see if Lucasfilm and Star Wars continue with not only these Tales shows, but also with these Underworld stories. It's a part of Star Wars that hasn't really been explored, and the Cad Bane storyline is proof enough that the concept can work really well. Hondo Anaka definitely deserves his own story, as do many others. Underworld proved to be a fantastic addition to the long line of Star Wars shows, and I hope for more in the future.
It's all the same inside your eye, all the pressure.
This is the best season of the show so far, and it's a shame that it had to be the last one, because it would have been so great to see this show just continue to build in quality from here. But at least they went out with a bang. This season, given it knew it was the end, was a lot darker with a lot more death than I was expecting going into it. Making sense in hindsight. Kronos being the final villain made all the sense, brilliantly voiced by Alfred Molina, who is killing it as usual as the villain, easily one of my favourite characters from the show. Seeing various characters come together and finally acknowledge their mistakes and finally move past it, finishing some pretty decent character arcs, was very satisfying and well executed given it's the last season. I also really liked the way they handled the relationship between Heron and Alexia. They stuck to the mythology and it worked really well and showed some competency. And there was some really fantastically sad deaths in the show, particularly Ares and Hephaestus. Ares because he finally saw the error of his ways, Hephaestus because he had been a Heron supporter since day one, and of course Herons and Seraphims, a beautiful end to their story together in the only way they know how, and some great moments of depth that the show had been missing for a while. I am sad that the show did not have more time to build up the conflict with Kronos, giving it more depth, more energy, more time, and a whole bunch more detail that would have really brought the show to a level it has struggled to reach. The animation still holds up very well and seems to have gotten an upgrade with some fantastic colors and great fight scenes. Not quite Castlevania Nocturne level, but still pretty good. It really sucks that this show did not get to go further, that it did not get to explore more of its story, because it has an interesting story, but not quite the depth it needs to reach superior heights. Seraphim's storyline, however, is easily the best of the show, as well as the relationship between Hades and Persephone. Seraphim has a ton of great growth and development, and seeing him, Heron, and their mother at the end was a very heartfelt and emotional moment that rounded out the series pretty well. It's a disappointment this show didn't have the opportunity to build up the larger, deeper story being presented here, but this third season did the best it could to wrap up the story in the best season of the show so far. I'm sad to see Blood of Zeus end, but I'm also super happy to have watched it, and I will continue to watch it and enjoy it. This was definitely a weaker season of the show, but I still had a lot of fun with it. The Red Hot Chili Peppers episode I really enjoyed, especially as a rock fan, and I liked the use of the puppets that created some really cool movements and animation, as well as just being funny, and a great choice of song too, one of their best. Golgotha was my least favorite episode, and probably my least favorite episode of the series as a whole. Not And I just think it was because the live action was really jarring, especially in an animated anthology, and the story kind of had nothing going on. It was the only one where I really felt the length of these shorts, and it ran on a bit too long, but Rhys Darby is always charming. The mini alien invasion episode, much like its previous counterpart, was hilarious and filled with all the usual craziness, horniness, and really cool animation style. As well as that, the Spider Rose episode, 400 Boys and How Zeke Got Religion, are some of the best of the show, brilliantly animated with some pretty wild stories. 400 Boys was wild. I had no idea what to expect from the identity of the 400 Boys. That was crazy. And the Zima Blue style of animation provided some really cool visuals, and the voice acting was pretty fitting. How Zeke Got Religion gave me some vibes of Masters of Air, with an extra layer of occult horror that was both absolutely terrifying and thrilling. Brutal, violent, and with a touch of depth, a perfect formula for a Love, Death, and Robots episode. I generally think that is one of the top episodes of the series. It just had so much going for it, and the design of this like occult creature that they had, brilliant. The cat-themed episodes like For He Can Creep, The Other Large Thing, and Spider Rose were pretty entertaining. The For He Can Creep episode was super fun, and a really unique idea. And oh hey, Dan Stevens is back. Spider Rose had that classic CGI look from Love, Death, and Robots, and was a fairly simplistic story that had a very, very dark and disturbing twist, but that little alien was so cute and I would die for him. Him and Stitch would be great friends. The other one was kind of meh. I don't like the human designs, but there are some episodes where it's pretty bad and arguably worse, so I can look past it. But the robot and the cat were funny at least, though I felt this one ended a bit prematurely. The Mr. Beast episode was really not that interesting. He kind of ruined it. Love, Death, and Robots always has a lot of potential with its stories, and whilst there was a good variety of unique and fun ideas, I think some of them were just not as interesting or executed well enough. Unfortunate, but I still had a lot of fun. This was another of Apple TV's sci-fi shows that went for the more comedic route instead of the usual drama. Alexander Skarsgård does a great job at portraying sarcastic, monotone Murderbot, and the supporting cast do a great job at just being stupid, but really funny. Each of the group felt unique enough that you could believe that they were different characters, but they still worked well as a group and did not fully distract from the main character of Murderbot. Their various problems, relationships, and shenanigans were delightfully stupid enough to entertain, as well as helping to develop the relationship between the group members. Murderbot was such a fun character. The way he spoke and talked about everything was a very cool way of giving exposition without weighing things down, and hearing his thoughts and seeing him panic and have to deal with real emotions and kind of the difficulties of being human and kind of not being fully a robot was very entertaining as well. Alexander Skarsgård just did a great job with that. He carried the show with his performance and attitude, and the limited fight and action scenes that we got in the show were either very creative or just pure comedy, a good mixture there. The comedy was a good mix of both lowbrow shock and much more highbrow stuff, especially the TV show references, which were probably the funniest running gag in the whole show, particularly in all the guest stars that appeared across the various series that they mentioned. The Star Trek one, I think, was probably my favorite that was brought up, because honestly, it just had so much like parody of the various Star Trek shows. It was just a perfect little parody joke to throw in there. As usual, the production design is excellent with all the various sets, the costumes, and even some of the VFX. Apple TV just produces some of the best looking sci-fi shows. The show just had a subtle enjoyment to it that made it fun to watch without any of the drama and tension of the other shows, and that's something I needed given the sheer quantity of shows I'm watching this year. The lore behind the world will be interesting to explore in the future seasons. The ending was actually pretty intense and emotional for a show that had a few moments like that spread throughout the episode. The balance was actually pretty strong. I think the show had a very good middle ground that allowed it to move pretty smoothly towards both extreme comedy and an emotional core. This show was just the perfect little bite-sized comedy to put in between all the super intense dramas during the year. And I'm glad it's getting another season because the ending is not only set up for some more cool stuff, it's just really fun. A really fun show with a more unique premise than a lot of other sci-fi stuff, and I just had a lot of fun with it. So we enter the summer blockbuster season after a very lackluster month, for lack of a better term. A few projects I did enjoy and enjoyed greatly, and others were just kind of disappointing, which is going to happen. And I'm kind of happy that that's kind of happened earlier on in the year. And I have a lot of high hopes for the coming summer blockbuster season because there's a lot of big movies coming out that I'm really looking forward to. And I'm really looking forward to sharing my thoughts on those movies.